Hi, friends. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Hello APGD, a neighborhood podcast about the Audubon Park Garden District in Orlando, Florida. I'm your host, Michael Lothrop, and today we'll be speaking with Trevor Brown, Audubon Park resident and realtor at Fannie, Hillman and Associates. For listings, market trends, helpful home buyer and seller tips, email directly to Trevor at fanniehillman.com or find him on Instagram at trevorbrown407. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, or if you'd like to be a sponsor, please feel free to message me on Instagram at HelloAPGDPod. Thank you for listening. And with me today is Trevor Brown, Audubon Park resident and realtor with Fannie, Hillman and Associates. Welcome, Trevor.
Hey, good to be here.
Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for being a sponsor of the podcast.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so this is your second time on the podcast. Of course, Grandma Party was a whirlwind of guests, and it was great to get you on mic then. And looking forward to hearing more about your story here today.
Yeah.
So we've talked a bit kind of about your philosophy of being a realtor and making sure that you really are connecting the right person or the right family with the right home. It's really more kind of a matchmaking kind of process, right? You really want to listen to what they are interested in doing. Tell me a little bit about your philosophy.
So my philosophy about that is a lot of people have this idea of what they want in a home. Mm-hmm. They see homes all over HGTV and everyone's got, Zillow pulled up in their computer and they're, always looking and, searching through homes and they say, I want that. I want that.
Okay. That's like their dream home, their aspirational.
Sure.
Okay.
I want the outdoor kitchen and I want this and the 2-story and I want this style. Mm-hmm. And my sort of philosophy is I understand that you might want those things, but I try to dig a little bit deeper into the why do you want those things? Mm. So I always ask people, they say, I want a 4-bedroom home with a yard and a this and a that. And I say, okay, let's go into that. Why do you want a 4-bedroom home? Mm. And a lot of people will answer that with, well, I have 3 kids, I work remote, and I need a home office. And the why question opens up so many more opportunities for me to say, well, couldn't we find a solution if we did it this way, if we found something like this, if we did that? Mm-hmm. This space could be your home office and you don't necessarily need a 4-bedroom home. You can have a 3-bedroom home with this little, bonus space.
Right.
And then, you said that you want a yard. Why do you want a yard? Well, we have 3 dogs mm-hmm. and we need a fenced in yard. I'm like, okay, that's your why.
Yeah.
That's
a big why.
Now I know, okay, you have a home with 3 dogs. I need to keep that in mind when I'm helping you search for a home. Like, mm-hmm. is this home going to be suitable for your family plus 3 dogs?
Right.
I didn't know that before until we started to dig into the why.
Yeah.
So a lot of, the locations of where people search for homes, I like to dig into that of, why are you searching in this specific neighborhood? Well, I want to live, 10 minutes from my work. Okay, where do you work? How long are you going to plan on working there? Mm-hmm. This neighborhood is, 5 minutes from here, but 15 minutes from your best friend's house. Like, are you okay with making that commute? Mm-hmm. So a lot of it is.
And what do you like to do on the weekends, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So my main questions that I ask, and I kind of ask this to, home sellers, home buyers, like all types of people, mm-hmm. is basically focused on your family, your occupation, what you do for recreation, and what do you see yourself doing in your dreams or your future? What are your aspirations to do in the future?
It's almost like a job interview in a way, right?
It is, yeah.
That's
and
so interesting.
I remember it with by Ford, Ford, so family, occupation, recreation, and dreams.
Okay.
And so I like to it's not necessarily like, let's sit down and you have to answer this worksheet of questions.
Sure.
It's more conversational. Like,
yeah.
Are you from here? Do you have kids? What do you do for work? What do you like to do for fun? Do you want to, live near a golf course or live near the beach?
Yeah.
And
how do people typically respond to that? Are some of them kind of surprised that you're interested in their lives in that way?
Yeah, a lot of people are. some people it takes like some coaxing out the answers, because they're like, I told you what I want. Why are you asking me all these follow-up questions?
Sure.
And but some people
there's a science to it, right? There's a reason for it.
Exactly. Yeah, because when we get to the hard part of, okay, look, these are the only homes that fit the criteria that you're looking for. It's very important to understand your why, because then when you get down to it, you can say, well, I really like this home because it has that yard that can fit my 3 dogs, and it has that space that can be my office. Instead of this one, which is what I originally thought that I wanted, but it doesn't answer those why questions.
Or they could be closer to a dog park. There's even that. We've got a new one that we have access to, and that's definitely a consideration as well. You wouldn't necessarily need the big yard if you can just take them out there, right? Yeah. All of these things factor into it. And location is... It's always what they say about real estate, and it's so true. I mean, this neighborhood, I've been here over 20 years, and so I've kind of watched it blossom and grow. And, there were a lot of older homeowners at the time when I moved in. They were the original. And now that some time has passed, you're really seeing the new families come in. You're seeing the attraction to Audubon Park School. And in doing some interviews for this podcast, I've really found that a lot of people's origin story for finding this neighborhood was the school. Even like in the old days when they had the old Audubon Park Elementary, that was like one of the key things. And then going to Winter Park High. And so that above all is one of the things that people are like, okay, this is where I need to be strategically. I can afford the houses here. And it's not Winter Park, but we can still have access to that school. So that's a win for everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah, the school is it checks a lot of people's boxes of, it's a reason why people buy in this neighborhood. And I have to be careful about, I can't, as a realtor, there's a code of ethics, and I can't say that certain schools are better than others. But I can direct people to resources where they can research schools and school districts and all of those things. But what I can say is that the Audubon K-8 is an incredibly special school. I've heard incredible things about the principal there and the way that they run things. And the fact that it's a K-8 is actually really important. And it provides the families here and anyone zoned for Audubon Park to keep their schedules and routines all the same from kindergarten through 8th grade.
Yeah.
Where if you're in an elementary school and you have a middle schooler, you have to juggle 2 schedules. You have to wake this one up at one time to take them into school, and then this one has to get up and go to school, and then they come back at different times, and they have all these different things. So having a K-8 it's really incredible, because I mean, we see it all the time. Families are just walking to school, and the older kids are riding their bikes to school, and they all kind of come and go all at the same time. And so that's really important for families, because they can kind of keep their schedule and keep their routines on the same timeline.
Yeah, that really is so true. It struck me as odd when I first heard the plan for a K-8, because I'm like, how many students is it going to be able to fit? Because I mean, that's 9 grades essentially. So you have kind of limited capacity, so that will sort of dictate who exactly like can go there. But people that are located in the neighborhood specifically are zoned for it, so they're definitely in. And we've got some friends that rent in the neighborhood and their kids go there. And it's just so important that they stay at the same school. I mean, obviously it doesn't work out that way for everybody, but as much as it can be helped, that's really an ideal situation, especially because it is such an exceptional school.
And I talk to people all the time about Audubon Park and, what it's like to live here. And a lot of people my age are having kids, and a lot of friends on my street have kids, and they're like, I see more and more kids all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited that my kids will get to grow up in an area where there are other kids their age, and they can all go to school together and get to know each other and kind of grow up and make this neighborhood theirs. Because it is definitely one of those neighborhoods that has that feel.
Yeah, a prime example is Halloween. Back in the day, I was really excited when I first bought my house, and I'm like, yeah, we're gonna do candy. It'll be cool. Like, we'll have trick-or-treaters. We had 2 trick-or-treaters the whole night, and it was like, well, I guess we're not gonna do this again. And then so many years later, now we have a ton, and we'll sit in the driveway and greet them, unless it's a Market Monday, which it was this past Halloween, in which case we leave a bowl of candy and direct them to the market to hang out too.
Right.
But the connection that the people who live here feel with Audubon Park, and the fact that you do see kids outside playing just the way that it should be. They're like enjoying the outdoors and not staying cooped up inside. I feel like during the pandemic even, we all really kind of had a taste of what it was to be sort of trapped inside our homes. And whether or not we really enjoy where we are, if we're spending all of this time at home and working from home. And one of the things that we found, like, we've always loved walking around this neighborhood, and we did so much of that during the shutdown and all of that. And it was just like, that's really kind of what got us through that time. It felt very, very bleak for a while there.
Yeah,
but
everybody was a little bit crazy. They were looking for their outlets.
We were, yeah. And just how fortunate, when you do really love the place that you are, and it just kind of solidifies that fact when you have an experience like that. So, and congratulations. I saw that you were one of those picked for the 20 under 40 Rising Star Realtor last year.
Yeah.
And that was with the Orlando Regional Realtor Association. Mm-hmm. And then in 2020 and 2021, you were the Rookie Agent of the Year for Fannie Hillman. Mm-hmm. Tell me about those awards a little bit.
So, thank you, first of all.
Yeah,
Thank you. I don't get to kind of like pat myself on the back enough, but thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. That's what we're here for.
So the Rookie Agent of the Year for my brokerage is just based off of a like sales volume kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So there's a couple of rookie agents every year that get, brought into the brokerage, depending on, how many homes they sell. Like whoever is, the highest producing agent of kind of the handful of rookies mm-hmm. that are in our office, they get, kind of it's in name only. There's, it's like, hey, you did the best out of everybody who is brand new.
And brand new being kind of what time frame?
It's just that first year.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I in real estate, you're learning something new every day. Mm-hmm. I still consider myself kind of a rookie, even though I'm in my third year now.
Mm-hmm. Sure. There's a big learning curve there.
There's
a
huge learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there's veteran agents who have been doing this for 20 years, and we talk about it in our meetings all the time. And they'll say, did you know that when you do this, then this, then this? And, everyone kind of like, oh no, I didn't know that. Let's talk about it. Let's like learn a little bit from your experience. Mm-hmm. Every house is different. Every real estate deal is different. But yeah, that Rookie of the Year was nice. And then the Aura Award came the year after that. It was based on sales, but it's also based on community involvement and kind of like presence within Orlando. And I kind of chalked that up to my like social media presence. Mm-hmm. The people who were on the board of the Orlando Regional Realtors Association saw me on Instagram and kind of saw the work that I was doing, saw that I was volunteering for Habitat for Humanity and giving back to kind of the community at large, mm-hmm. shouting out local companies and, restaurants that I go to. And I would do little like testimonials of like, hey, I just had lunch here, like get this sandwich, it's really great. And, do this and do that. And not only, just about real estate, but about living in Orlando as a whole, mm-hmm. as a local of Orlando. Here's what you can do and here's what you can experience. And you can drive up to Wekiva and go kayaking and canoeing and you can do all these things.
Yeah.
And so they kind of saw that as like a all-encompassing, like, okay, you get it. You kind of like understand like what living in Orlando is about. And so they gave me that award. But it's also based on like, you have to sell houses.
Right, right. Yeah, that makes sense. And it is you're kind of selling the lifestyle, right? You are making sure that people kind of understand what they're buying into and that they definitely appreciate it for all of its good value and all of its traits, because it is pretty unique here. Like we are an hour from the beach. It's an easy trip, and even though Florida is really long and it takes a while to kind of get out of Florida, even when you're at the center of it, there's a lot to see here. There's a lot of day trips that you can take. We were just in St. Augustine for our anniversary, and it was like, I mean, it's just like another world there.
Right.
And it's a 2-hour drive. And so many people that I've talked to about that trip are like, man, I haven't been there in years, or I've never been there. And it's like, it's just right there. And I mean, it's set up for visitors too, very similar in a way that Orlando is. And I think even more so, it's coming soon once we have more public transport and train options that, you know, are really going to, I think, kind of make us the big city that we've been a little held back from being. Mm-hmm. It's like in population, we're big, but it's very spread out. And some of those amenities kind of keep certain people from being here because they don't want to have cars, which I understand. I would love to not have a car.
Sure.
But that's not happening anytime soon, obviously.
Right. Yeah. The largest population of people who come from out of state into Florida are from New York.
Yeah.
And they're coming from a place where you may not need a car to commute to and from work or the places that you go. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that I tell people is, look, if you're from another state, if you're from a state that has really great public transportation and you're coming to Orlando or Central Florida, you need to look at getting a car.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to live within walking distance or, you know, the Sunrail trip to your work.
Right.
You need to look at getting a car.
Yeah.
And
that it's an ongoing expense too, obviously, because registration, maintenance, fuel, just all of the things. There's always something that you're going to have to be spending money on when it comes to having a car. And yeah, that's a big lifestyle adjustment for people coming here from places that actually had public transport. So
right.
Yeah, I'm excited for the future here and them finishing up construction on I-4. These are all things that, even though it's still a nightmare, just being completely honest, I do not love I-4. But there's always room for improvement, and they're kind of slowly making progress. And these changes are coming, so it is very exciting.
Yeah, the express lanes in I-4 are a good change. There's obviously still congestion. There's still, critiques. A lot of major cities have bad traffic.
Right.
But that's something that people talk about all the time is, the traffic on I-4 is terrible. I'm going to avoid it at all costs.
Yeah. And a lot of times there's not a good alternative, which can be the frustrating thing. It's like you're getting from, going from here to there, and that's literally the only way to go, other than taking back roads, which would take like 5 times as long.
Sure.
So
do you think that you'll take a bright line trip, maybe to South Florida?
Definitely. Yeah. Actually, Gabby and I were just talking about that because she has some jobs coming up that might take her down there. And I mean, just to explore, I think that if it's going to be easier to get to a place, and if you find yourself not needing to drive around, if you can bring your bike or something like that, like it sounds so magical. We just haven't really had that experience. Even with Sunrail, our train here, it doesn't run on weekends. Mm-hmm. So I still, to this day, have not ridden Sunrail because I don't really go anywhere during the week. So it's very limiting that way. And that definitely is something that I'm looking forward to some change as well.
Yeah. It's, once it's all completed, we're kind of excited to explore, like, who can we go see? What can we go do? Mm-hmm. It opens up like those possibilities of like, okay, we can kind of get here in just a few hours. What can we make out of that?
Yeah. 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 I think that it will sort of, we already have so many visitors here. It's hard to imagine more, but it definitely will open that up, right? I mean, we'll absolutely have more people from South Florida coming here just to check it out because it's convenient. So yeah, I'm all for it. I think that we need all the help that we can get in this changing economy and things being kind of so uncertain. This whole Silicon Valley bank collapse thing is terrifying and I mean, we're living in a very uncertain time period. And I'm sure that has to affect the real estate market. We've talked about it a little bit. Tell me about kind of what you've seen, like trends lately, and how you're sort of mitigating some of those things.
So, yeah, just in the last couple of years, if you went back to 2020, 2021, the major thing that happened then is this big spike in real estate prices. And if you look back at it, the reason that we think that prices went up so much is because demand went up so much. Because interest rates were as low as they were during that time, they were about like in the 3s and 4s.
Yeah.
And they've almost doubled to now. They're in the high 6s now.
Yeah.
It was cheap to borrow money and get a loan for a home in 2020 and 2021. And there were a lot of people who, because it was COVID lockdown, because they were kind of stuck with what they had and they had to be inside and they looked around their home every day, all day. They were like, I want to change.
Yeah.
I want to move. I want to do something different. We've got another kid on the way. We have this and that going on in our lives. And this is driving me crazy. And right now is a good opportunity for us to go do that. And so a lot of people all kind of at the same time had those thoughts and plans to do that. And so that created this huge spike in demand, which led to, if you remember, it led to all these people bidding for houses over the asking price at, $20,000, and we'll skip the inspection and all this stuff just to get that new house. And maybe it was somebody's first home. Maybe it was an upgrade from their previous home. It could have been a downsize where, it was a family that had grown and the kids had gone off to college and they needed to downsize now. Whatever it was, a lot of people all at the same time were kind of realizing that they wanted to make a move. And so that really shot up prices, because then your neighbor down the street goes, well, they just got their house sold for this much money. Like, we don't necessarily have to move, but if they're making that much money, we could sell ours.
Yeah.
And so it kind of like created this snowball effect where now you have like every home on the street is now worth this much because a couple of them in the neighborhood sold for this much. And so we're still seeing that kind of demand if the house is in a great location, if it's in good condition, and if the price is correct.
Yeah. Because
what's happened now is the cost of borrowing that money for the mortgage has increased. So your monthly payment, where it was at a 3% or a 4% rate, is now at a 6% rate.
Yeah.
And so the cost of getting your mortgage and paying the interest on it has gone up, but the demand hasn't necessarily slowed down. It's still there. It just costs more to do it.
Right.
So the people that I talk to and people that, comment on my social media stuff, and I'll say, hey, you can get this house for this much, and here's the price of it. But people see like a $400,000 house, and that kind of freaks people out. But what you need to look at is what are you living in month to month? You're making that payment month to month to month. You're not making a $400,000 payment at one time,
right?
Unless you have $400,000 cash.
Sure,
but,
I don't know anybody like that.
Yeah, but most people live in those monthly payments. Right. So that's how you have to think about it. And so those monthly payments were less in 2020 and 2021 than they are now. So that's kind of we're seeing a little bit of change in the like curve of demand and supply, and that's a whole It's a whole thing. 'Cause,
Yeah. The
you know,
equation is always, it's a moving target, right? It's like you can't fully predict. It's like certain things, certain factors affect it, but we didn't know that we were going to have a pandemic when we did.
right.
And that changed the market dramatically, but then also just as you said, people seeing that, oh, I could get this for my house and I couldn't before, so I'm going to go ahead and cash out and then figure something out. But it's like, yeah, where are you going to live after that?
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, when I purchased my home in 2002, it was a completely different market. Like prices were so different then, and we love it here. So it's like, it's nice to know that my value has gone up, but ultimately it's about the quality of life. Like this is where I want to be. So like we're not leaving. As tempting as it can be sometimes, you check Zillow just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
And there are all these tools now too. I wonder, as you said, kind of Instagram is a way for people to get to know you better and kind of what you offer. And it's cool just kind of looking through your feed and like the advice that you give. You can truly tell that you want to help people make informed decisions. And I think that can be a pretty rare thing, because some people are just about the money, and it's sales ultimately, right? But if you treat it differently, it doesn't have to be just sales. It's really about the relationships, right?
Yeah, and a lot of times realtors get a bad rap. People compare real estate agents to used car salesmen. All that you want is your commission. All that you want is to sell a house. And I want people to be happy with the purchase that they made. Because if they're happy with the purchase that they made and the process that I helped them through, they will refer me to other people who will in turn be happy with the purchases or sales that they make.
Yeah.
If I help somebody and don't give them the attention that they need, don't take the time to get to know them and make sure they get to know me, if they're unhappy at the end of the transaction, that's not going to lead to anything down the road for me. That would like, they could leave me a bad review. I'm providing this service in the hopes that at the end of it, you're happy. You're living in this house. I want you to be happy in the house.
Yeah.
And
they're going to be members of your community.
Exactly.
So you're going to be seeing them again and again.
Right.
So
right.
There is that also, right?
Yeah.
Because you do have several listings in Audubon Park. I did see one on Ibis that you had posted video of. It's quite a beautiful home, and that does have the outdoor kitchen.
Well, so speaking of the demand of the right location, the right house for the right price, I can kind of speak to this because it's my own listing. I know the details of it, but these are it's bittersweet because these are some good friends of ours that are on the same street as us. We got to know them and kind of going through the questions that you ask friends and, hey, what do you want to do? How's your job? What are you guys doing for weekend plans and trips? And so they're looking at moving more towards the beach.
Okay.
And so it's bittersweet, but they wanted me to kind of handle that for them. They've done a lot of incredible improvements to that home, like that outdoor kitchen.
Yeah.
They've done, a kitchen update and bathrooms and, just all this great stuff. And so with my help and getting it priced correctly for the neighborhood and a little bit of marketing and videos and pictures here and there, we put it on the market and they accepted an offer a day later.
Oh, wow.
We had so many people come in and love the home. Obviously, they love the location. A lot of the people who came in who were interested in the home had already been searching in Audubon Park. They were looking and looking and looking, and it's that supply and demand problem where there's a lot of people who want to be here because there's so much cool stuff to do here.
Yeah,
like
totally.
It's kind of the chicken and the egg problem where, do the people want to be here? And then the shops and restaurants and everything kind of like came here because there's people here, or are the shops and restaurants like just so amazing that everyone wants to be here because of them? And so we had all these people looking at this home they had told me, they knew about Audubon Park, they knew the school, and they knew why it was so great. They were renting nearby, and they wanted their children to stay at the school, so that was a big reason why they wanted to purchase in this neighborhood. But yeah, I mean, lots of demand to live in Audubon Park. The right house for the right price always gets it done.
Yeah, yeah. And the architecture here is really special. I had a guest, Richard Reap, who lives in the neighborhood, and he's an architect, and he's done an art series based on Audubon Park, and it's cool to kind of hear about that and how in the 50s they designed the homes kind of around the carport in a way. It was like people were very proud of having an automobile because that was maybe the first time that they were. And it just sort of that style and that culture and that like period of time, I think a lot of people are sort of attracted to that time because it felt sort of like progress in certain ways with technology and with just kind of what was available. And there's still that element here, and people preserve the homes and update them, and it's got a style of its own here for sure.
Yeah, and that's something that there are people who would love to see nothing change in the neighborhood.
Right. Sure.
There are kind of traditional purists who don't want the new builds, new construction, or anything to kind of change the look and style of the neighborhood. There are people who would love to see new construction come in and they can buy a home and knock it down and build whatever they want. But that style of, the slanted roof line and the carport, and that's kind of what you get in Audubon Park. I was doing some research before the podcast here, and the average home in Audubon Park in the last 90 days that was sold is, I think it speaks for the average of Audubon Park as a whole, is a 3-2, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home with a carport and not a garage. And the average price in the last 90 days was $435,000. So if you take that back to when you bought your home, I'm sure it's way different.
It's bizarre how quickly it changed and how drastically. And it's when you compare to kind of other big cities in the country, it's like our prices have not caught up with them by a long shot. So you can still get a lot of house for your money here, but that balancing act of what the wages are here and what people can actually afford, and then when you add interest on top of it, you kind of realize, it's not really 450, it's this because of all of this interest. And it's a very emotional kind of roller coaster, especially when you think that you're committing to a home and somebody else ends up getting it. We've had some friends that were in the process of buying a home, and that's kind of where you end, is like a lot of times you don't get that first house that you look at and you fall in love with. So you have to be a little guarded about it, right? Do you advise people on that a little bit of just like, don't get too excited?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I would imagine.
It's really difficult because it is such an emotional process. I mean, if you think about how many years you've spent in your home and all the memories that you've made and what it means to you, there are people who are shopping around looking at homes, and they go and they open the door and they see something that it's perfect and it checks all the boxes for them, and they make this offer that their real estate agent has told them is a very strong offer, and it's full price, and it has these terms, and they're sitting there and their fingers are crossed, and it turns out that a better offer came in, and somebody else had a little bit more money and they put a little bit more cash in, and it can be very emotional. And it's kind of my job to set expectations, guide them through that process, and try to keep the roller coaster from doing the ups and downs that it will do, and kind of like keep everything level. I like to compare the job of a real estate agent as like a Sherpa guiding somebody up a mountain. I'm not necessarily the one who sold you on the idea of taking the trip to the mountains. Somebody makes that decision for themselves.
Right.
The decision to buy a house or sell their house kind of comes up on their own. They just need to be connected to someone who can guide them through that process safely and not get them in trouble.
Yeah.
So a lot of that comes with doing things by the book, keeping everybody calm, keeping everybody safe.
Yeah.
That's
a good analogy.
I kind of workshop that, but
because you have to monitor the conditions. I mean, that's a big part of it. Is that like you don't move forward until you kind of know all of the things, and it can change just in a minute. So being observant and communication with your customer and, with the other agent, it is all kind of part of it, right? It's like there's a lot going on there that people may not realize.
Right. And it's a process that people may only do a couple times in their lives. And so there's a lot of education mixed in with the process of, I need to make sure that you're prepared to do this. Let me lay out kind of the process of what it takes to even get to the stage of making an offer. What happens after that offer is accepted? What happens after this? And that's what I kind of like to educate of, there's a mix of stuff to know before you make an offer, during, after, and then even years in the future, just how to maintain your home.
Right.
How to change out your AC filters and, how often to do these things so that it doesn't cost you $10,000 in 5 years when your AC blows out because you didn't properly maintain it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more that goes into the way that I do business than people think. It's not just, I get you to the closing table, you sign, and you never hear from me again. It's a relationship business that I like to pride myself in maintaining those relationships for years down the road.
That's so cool. Yeah, I just think that to trust somebody and to really know that their heart is in it for the right reasons, and they're obviously, there's a good deal of money to be made in real estate, and that's always been the case, but the people who are just doing it for the money, and it becomes pretty obvious after you talk with them for a bit that they're not interested in those details, or they maybe are missing that sort of empathy that others of us do have, and that I care about your outcomes, and your outcomes affect my outcomes. And we're all connected in this way. I mean, that's what a community is. And, I know all of my neighbors, and I talk to all my neighbors. And growing up, it was not as much that way. I mean, I'm from Wekiva originally, and we did have some of that. I mean, it was kind of different then. We were on a cul-de-sac and that sort of thing. So, and just being a kid, you're always like in neighbors' yards and stuff like that. It was a very different time,
right,
where all of that was cool. And it was great. It was a great way to grow up. But seeing these kids, and like they know lots of people here, you know what I mean? And there is that trust, and there is that community, and that's the full package, right? It's like walkability is a great thing. We're getting better by the year on that, especially with this crosswalk.
I was just going to mention that. That is a game changer.
It really is.
I remember, just before it was in, just a few years ago, walking up to Corinne and having to look both ways twice.
It's bleak.
And play Frogger with your, just to get to East End Market.
Yeah. It's funny because like it comes up on almost every episode, and by design, because it's an important development in the neighborhood, and it's without really experiencing taking your life in your own hands and crossing Corinne Drive, like where it's not a crosswalk, and the two crosswalks are essentially like over 3 blocks, so you're basically walking half of a mile just to cross. If you're like
between Winter Park Road and General Reese.
Yeah, exactly. So where, depending on where you want to go, and if you're cutting across to East End, you're going to at least walk 4 blocks total, and it just doesn't make sense. It's like it's kind of an insult to your sensibilities where you're like, I mean, yeah, I need the steps, but also for that, like I could be using the steps and be like shopping and looking, window shopping and, stopping into these places. So yeah, it has very much changed, I think, how people shop here, how people, where people visit. And I've gotten so many of those stories of just people being like, yeah, I never went there before, but now I go there all the time.
Right.
And that's the case for us. I mean, we're at East End all the time now, and we live like, we can see East End basically from where we live.
Right.
And I wouldn't go there because it was just like, well, I got to go to the thing and come back, and it's enough of a barrier, and just getting those barriers removed, it all kind of factors into the quality of life here.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember before it was put in, like on a busy weekend, both sides of Corinne are kind of filled with parallel parking, and then there's so many people running back and forth from either side, and it's terrifying.
Yeah. Oh, I hate watching people try to cross. And yeah, I've seen a lot of near misses. I've seen cars that actually flipped on Corinne Drive.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know exactly how, but they were going fast enough and they hit at just the right angle, just came completely over on its top. And yeah, it's not great. It's,
well,
that shouldn't be happening.
The crosswalk hopefully will solve a lot of those problems. And there's still improvements on the books to be made on Corinne, right?
Yes, it's a budget thing at this point. For a long time, it was a city agreement with the county, because the county owned the road, and they didn't want to give it over to the city of Orlando. So that battle has been hashed out, but now it's just the funding that's needed, and then as the years go, it gets in worse and worse repair, so that it's going to take more funding. So it's been this kind of impossible situation for a while, but now it seems a lot more possible. And they did a whole study, so they know kind of what their options are, and I know that the city will make a good informed decision about their design choices and things like that, because parking is obviously critical. And with the school, that's really helped quite a bit, because a lot of the community gets to use that on, non-school hours basis, which has been also a game changer. So, yeah, I mean, just in the past, 5 years, there's so much change. And, with Lobos opening up on the corner, and that was right as the pandemic was hitting too, they started construction during the pandemic, but they're doing great there, and they're such awesome partners. They were at the Lou Gardens plant sale over the weekend, a couple weekends ago, and it just it really, I don't know, just seeing things kind of go in the right direction, and getting to know the people who are a component of that, and who really are kind of those cheerleaders, and they want it to keep progressing in the way that it has been. And you've come up several times in the podcast also for your potlucks that you've done. Tell me about those. I've not been to one yet.
So those started in 2020. Those started because we had done our home renovation, and we kind of realized that there's a lot of people in this neighborhood that we don't know. And I think that it started just after Halloween one year. And we were hanging out with our friends down the street. We were doing just sitting in the driveway, handing out candy. And we met all these people who were trick-or-treating. And we were like, oh, yeah, we live down the street. We just, fixed up this house. And a lot of people knew us because of the house and what we were doing to it. And so we realized we would kind of like to, jump off of that and kind of kick off a neighborhood block party. And we kind of came home from that Halloween and we're like, oh, who were they? Where were they from? What were their names? And we said, let's kind of host just a big neighborhood party and get to know everyone a little bit better. And so after Halloween that year, I think that we did the first one quickly after Halloween. I think it was November of that year. And that's when we made the Facebook page as well. And so that those two things kind of coincided. My wife literally made little 4x6 flyers. She printed out like some flyers that had the details of the party, and we went door to door around the neighborhood for like a week. Like we'd go like walk for an hour after work, and we'd say, hey, we're having a block party, and like join the Facebook page and all this. And the first one, was relatively small. It was like the people that we already knew, and they invited a couple of friends and stuff. And it was just in our front yard, and we asked everyone, bring something to eat and drink and just hang out and get to know your neighbors. And it was kind of an excuse for us to see everybody again that we had met at the night at Halloween.
Yeah.
But it was also a great way for all these other families to kind of like get connected. And especially during COVID, like people had been, in their own homes for months, and they wanted an excuse to kind of get out and get to know the people of their neighborhood and socialize their kids with other kids.
Yeah.
And it was a great way to get everybody together. And a lot of people left that first party and said, I want to host the next one.
Cool.
I want it to be at my house next time. And so we started doing them. I think it was like twice a year. We do them about twice a year. And we've had, people say like, let's do more. Mm-hmm. So we'll probably end up doing one before the summer, before it gets too hot. Mm-hmm. Maybe in April or May. But yeah, I mean, those are really great. We've gotten to know a lot more people than we would just in like passing, walking the dogs or something like that. So it's a great way that, we can organize just kind of casual hangout. Yeah. And a lot of people have just said like, let's have it at their house because they've got the outdoor kitchen in the backyard, and people have said, well, I've got a pool. Let's have it at our place.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't take much, right? It's just a little bit of getting the word out, the willingness, and people in this neighborhood really do like congregating. They love an event. And it's been really fun to be on the board of directors all these years, planning events and just seeing them grow. And it's like Zombie-toberfest is just such a wild night because we get thousands of people here, and they're from all over. And a lot of times, we'll hear the feedback that it's the first time that, this person has been to the neighborhood, and they get to go into the shops because they're open at night, and they remember it forever. It's just one of those things. It's like, it's different. It's kind of, this neighborhood is tucked away a bit. You wouldn't necessarily know about it, but once you find it, it's like on your radar. Mm-hmm. And I love seeing that. And it's just grown so much over the years because of those kind of events. And yeah, I think when neighbors get to know each other, it makes it all cozier, Mm-hmm. And yeah, your Facebook group, it is Audubon. Remind me of the name of it again.
Audubon Park, Orlando Neighborhood and Community.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I think.
Mm-hmm. So find that on Facebook.
We put a lot of keywords in there so people can find it.
That's crucial. And there is an Audubon Park and a garden district in New Orleans. So sometimes you can get the wrong hits if you're looking online.
And I think that there's an Audubon Park in New Jersey as well, because we've had people join our group, and their profiles will say that they're from New Jersey, and they'll join the group and they have like no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah. The Orlando is that's crucial. That's very smart. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I tried to start a group called Audubon Park Tales, and then didn't do my research enough to know. Need more keywords. Yeah, because we did get a lot of people from Jersey and from Louisiana. So right. We're not the only Audubon Park, but we are the only one in Orlando. Mm-hmm. And of course, like Lou Gardens being there, it's such an asset to the community. And I know that they're looking to do more programming with the community as well. There's just a lot of opportunity there. They do a lot of events now that are family friendly. They have the dinosaurs there. That's coming again, I think, next month. And they do the nighttime walks. They did like the jazz stroll, but now they do the holiday thing. And it's just added such a huge component for visitors.
Yeah, we went to we went to a couple events there last year. We did the jazz concert. We did, I think, a couple of movies in the park. Mm-hmm. And we did the Dazzling Nights around the holidays. That's which is always cool incredibly beautiful. It's amazing.
It's completely different each year. And yeah, they've got like the section with fake snow, and the kids are going wild about that because in Florida that's such a novelty. And I mean, the gardens are so beautiful in the daytime, and I hadn't really been there much at night. Before that, really, it was just the movies in the park, but you only kind of get glimpse of part of the park that way. But we always get a family membership there. It's gone up in price, but it's still such a steal. It's like $75 a year for the whole family.
Mm-hmm. Like single day entry into there is 20 something.
I think so.
So like, you go a few times in the year and
yep.
It's already paid off.
Exactly. And it's such a great thing to support. And the fact that you can bring the whole family, and that there are more things that are interesting for kids too, because I mean, there's a lot to learn and experience there, but I remember being a kid and going to botanical gardens and even Lou Gardens, and it was not my thing. But they didn't have anything for kids, so also I'm kind of like, all right, what's next? This is not a theme park, so
right. I know that the dinosaur event that they've got coming up is really popular. Mm-hmm. The last time that we went, they have like the map, and it tells you where all of your favorite dinosaurs are, and you go find the Tyrannosaurus Rex and the Triceratops, and you kind of do the whole lap and then check them off your list. And the kids were going crazy for it.
It was so cool. It was so funny. There was this one kid who was like, he and his dad had like these little walkie-talkies, and he was taking it real serious. Like he was very little, and it was just like he had like his explorer outfit on, and he was just like talking to his dad in his walkie-talkie about how he found one, and it's like, this is the best.
Yeah.
Like that's what it's about, Mm-hmm. I mean, we only get one of these lives, and just making the most out of it, and
Absolutely.
And bringing others into it, and having a welcoming environment. And you are such a supporter of local businesses, as you alluded to, and we see you at the Monday night market all the time. And thank you just for all that you do to kind of get the word out, and it all helps build it.
Of course, it's funny how simple it is, how easy it is to snap a picture and say, hey, did you know that this market was here every Monday? Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't.
Yeah. A
lot of people might not know that that's even there and happening. And it's so easy for me to share that there's a new vendor going into East End Market, or a new event happening. It's so straightforward and easy for me to do. And I want to be able to share that with as many people as I can.
Yeah.
Because you never know who might find value in that. And the Monday markets have kind of become like a habit for us. We can walk up there, and I think the last 3 weeks we've just made it our dinner. We get like some pork dumplings from there.
Oh, amazing.
Huge variety of those dips from the Jerusalem food vendor.
Oh yeah,
we get the dips and the pita chips.
He's got so much stuff, and it's all amazing.
Yeah, and he's a great salesman too.
Yeah.
He'll pull anybody out from here. Try this. And the first time that we went there, he sold us on like 5 tubs of like hummus and tzatziki and like all this different stuff, and we left there with no money and 6 different things.
Worth it though, and you're eating healthy and made from scratch
and local, and it's always amazing. We went to the Celion Hut.
Mm-hmm.
We got a dish from them. We had an arepa last week. Yeah, we've had a couple of just little things from everybody.
It's the best that it has ever been. I mean, the market really, it's always been a solid market, but as far as like dinner options, it's like you've got the waffle sandwiches. Sometimes you've got the noodles with Red Panda. Sometimes you've got the vegan soul food. There was a night before they became a vendor, they brought one of their vegan Philly cheesesteak sandwiches. And I was the only person that was eating that particular type of food at the time, I ate the entire thing, and I had already had dinner, but I'm just like, sure, I'll take a bite.
Yeah.
I'll sample it, and I couldn't stop myself. It was that good. And so they're frequent market vendors, and it's incredible just to see their business grow. And the idea is that these vendors want to have a brick and mortar, and the only way to make that possible is really to kind of build their customer base and know, I've got the demand for this. People are following us to different locations where we're popping up. We know that we could have kind of an ongoing fan base on a weekly basis or a daily basis even. So yeah, it's cool to see that process. And East End was definitely an extension of that, because several of the market vendors that Gabby's Market became the vendors at East End in the initial iteration of it. So yeah, it's just that local support, and that, everybody helps each other out, and seeing just the vendors like barter with each other at the end of the night. They've got like leftover stuff, and it's like, ooh, a loaf of bread. I love that. Can I give you this? And then they're like, yeah, absolutely. So those are the things that, it takes a little doing to kind of organize, but it makes kind of all the difference ultimately. And we have that in spades here, it's, I was going to ask also, in addition, sort of the tech aspects of what you do. Obviously, Zillow is a big developments as far as people kind of instantly knowing what their houses are worth, and that's how they sort of make initial decisions or shop around, or they're a little bit more informed perhaps than they were in the past.
Yes.
Realtor.com, the fact that you have 3D tours that you can check out online. What are some of the other things that you're sort of seeing as like trends for people as far as home buying? Like what technology things are you finding useful?
So I absolutely agree that the general public as a whole is way more informed on the home buying and selling process than they've ever been. It is still incredibly helpful to have a realtor on your side who knows what they're doing, who can guide you through that process. And I will say that, those algorithms of the estimate of your home, they can kind of get you in the ballpark.
Yeah.
But they can lead you astray in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Because they don't know exactly what state your house is in.
Exactly.
And all of those things factor in, right?
Exactly. So they're basing their algorithms and their estimating process based on comparable homes that have sold around you. But they don't have somebody coming into your home and seeing in the last 5 years, you've upgraded your kitchen, you've upgraded your bathroom, you've done this, you've done that, you've added a pool. They don't know that.
Right.
So they're basically just taking your previous sales data from when you first purchased the home. They're adding in a little mix of comparable homes around you, and they're kind of boiling it down to like a general number. Here's what we think it's worth. A real estate professional coming into your home, kind of seeing like, okay, you have granite countertops in your brand new kitchen, and Zillow doesn't know that.
Yeah.
You have this, and you've like redone your bathroom. That's adding value that they don't have in there. So yes, it's useful. It can get you in the ballpark, but it will never be able to get it exactly right until somebody comes in your home and gives you like a professional opinion on price. Right. Somebody who's in the market, doing it every day, sees a lot of houses, knows what they're doing, is incredibly valuable. And I like to talk to people and just say like, when was the last time that you had a professional opinion of your price? Even if you're not in the market to sell, you would want to know what your home is worth, right?
Yeah.
And so, a lot of people see their home as like an investment. And so with any investment, like if you purchase a stock, you can pull it up on your phone and see what your stock is worth at any time. You can't necessarily do that with your home unless you're kind of like really on top of the market and seeing what's going on all around you.
Yeah.
So I like to offer, just, hey, I can take 30 minutes. I can kind of walk around your house. You tell me about anything that you've done in recent years, and I'll kind of give you a number of what I think it could be worth in this current market.
That's cool.
Even if you don't plan on selling for 10 years, it's valuable to know, kind of like a doctor check-in.
Right.
You go to the doctor every year. It benefits you to know what your home is worth.
Yeah.
Right now.
And maybe what things to have on your radar for the future. Like if you're like, all right, I'm definitely going to sell in the next 10 years. Well, these are things that you might want to think about upgrading now because they're going to go up in price because of supply chain stuff. And it is changing so rapidly too. It's like, yeah, I mean, that's huge. That can really save somebody a lot of money. And ultimately, making an informed decision is what we all want to be doing anyways. And it takes a professional. It takes more than just an app and a zestimate to get there, right?
At this current time, yes. I can't say what will be happening in 20 years or 50 years from now, but I do want to get back to your initial question of like technology in real estate. And people are more informed than ever. I follow a lot of realtors. I get inspiration from other people in different markets who are doing things on social media and giving advice, showing tours of homes. You can go on any website and search for home tours and you'll see millions and millions of videos and walkthroughs and all this stuff. But we have stuff now like Matterport. Have you seen like Matterport?
I have not.
Walkthroughs of homes. So a Matterport is basically like it kind of creates like a dollhouse view of a home. It's not like a floor plan is kind of like 2D. Yeah. And a Matterport is like this 3D spatial floor plan that you can kind of click yourself through each room and like spin yourself around and really, look at everything the same way that you would if you were walking in the home.
That's incredible. So it kind of creates almost a CAD drawing, but it's detailed using the photo images and kind of pasting it all to the architecture.
Right. Wow. So it's the photographer will kind of put the camera in certain places and it pieces together the home through all these pictures. And online you can kind of click yourself through, and if you're in this room and you want to go into the kitchen, you just click on the kitchen and you're there and you can turn yourself around and do all this stuff. And I mean,
and they have the real estate cameras now that have lenses basically on every angle, right? So they just put it in the room and it takes the image and then you just move to the next room. Like it's brilliant.
And we've got drones now. So you've got, drone photos mixed in and flyovers and all this.
I have a friend who has a drone company called True North. And anybody looking for drone sources. Yeah. True North.
Yeah.
But it's just so it's changed so much, right? It's like there's so much information. There's so, we can make very well-informed decisions now more than ever. And that's very exciting. When I bought my home, it was for sale by owner. And it was a very different experience because it was just kind of like, Baldwin Park had not broken ground yet, but the deal had been made. So people were not selling their homes at that time. And this just happened to be one case where it was like he was just ready to move to a farm. He grew up on a farm and he was like, I'm ready to sell. So it worked out time-wise, and it was the first place that I looked at. So it wasn't an emotional roller coaster at all. Mine was sort of the, as far as that went, it was just a matter of kind of the best conditions as far as timing and luck and that sort of thing. But it doesn't always work out that way too, especially when you're not looking at multiple options and really kind of figuring out like, what are the trade-offs and am I going to be happy here? Have I visited at night? Is it noisy? Are there like things that I don't love about it?
Have you been in the house when it's raining?
Yes. Wow. Indeed.
Especially in Florida.
Yep.
It's a lot of people will, I'll have showings scheduled for a family to, hey, let's go see 4 houses today. You're in town. Let's go check them out. And it turns out that there's rain on the forecast. And they'll say, it's raining. Let's call it. And I say, no, this is the best time to go see. Yeah. Because you want to see if there's any leaks, how the rain runs off the roof, if there's any ponding or pooling in the yard. you want to see this house in the worst case conditions.
Yeah.
Because in the best case conditions, yeah, it's going to be perfect. But, if there's a heavy rainstorm, what's it going to look like?
Yeah.
Where's that water going to seep in? What long term, how is this going to affect your house and your, family?
We get a lot of rain here, and
Yeah.
a lot of, severe storms, especially nowadays. And these are all factors of, these problems become your problems when you buy a home, and also just insuring it. It's like that's kind of a moving target as well, because a lot of companies sort of pulled out of homeowners insurance in the state. So these are all factors.
Yeah, home insurance is a whole nother podcast episode that
Right.
you could bring me on for.
Yeah.
That's something that we talk about often in my office.
It is. I mean, again, it's like something that somebody may not think about as they're buying a home, but you definitely have to think about these things. And especially with the flooding that happened this past year with the storms, we had some friends who really went through some hell, and just knowing that there are streets that just don't, like, water doesn't go where it's supposed to. And that can change the entire experience of living there. Like it can make it very dangerous. And just luckily Audubon Park doesn't have a lot of those problems. We've got pretty good drainage on the streets and things like that. So I didn't hear of places flooding, and we have lots of lakes, and fortunately the water can take that. That's another selling point for sure, is that after the storms, we didn't have all of this kind of damage that some other neighborhoods did. And some of it's civil planning, but some of it's just kind of luck of the draw, right? It's like you are at the elevation that you are, and they have the streets kind of carved out the way that they do, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I learned a lot about lift stations and how they work last summer, and that was a big deal. But Audubon Park fared pretty well. Some other neighborhoods around did not, but I know that they are looking into that and making sure that, even though that was like a 500-year storm or however they classified it, I know that they're looking into improving it for the future.
I mean, how many 500-year storms are we going to have before we realize that this is just the new normal, right?
We'll see.
This is, that's, I love it when they say that, because it's like, okay. But also, didn't we have one of these like a couple years ago? So the math doesn't work out there. Another weird kind of technology thing that's changed is getting these spam texts about your home, and like they get the name wrong and the address wrong. Do you hear of these? Like, do you get these at all?
So, yeah. I get them more targeted because I'm a realtor.
Yeah.
I get a lot of people texting me saying, hey, if you know about any properties, about any homeowners that are looking to sell and it needs renovations or it needs to be fixed up, I'd like to purchase it, and we can kind of like work out a commission agreement. You don't, like, you can be on the buyer's side and the seller's side, and it's like this, it's this whole sketchy thing that I just don't want a part of. Like, but there's people, because as a realtor, like our contact information is basically public. It's in a public database of Orlando realtors. They just go down the list and they just contact every single realtor, because we are having these conversations with homeowners and people in our communities. We are kind of on the forefront. We know about properties that are going to be selling soon, or we might know somebody who's looking to sell their home as is and not really fix it up, and they don't really care. They just need to sell it to somebody. And there's investors who are looking for, deals, fix and flips. They're going to fix it up and they're going to rent it out.
Yeah.
I get stuff like that all the time. I know that there are other homeowners who get, are you interested in selling? Are you? Yeah, I'm sure.
I get them almost every day.
Yeah.
For a while, it was my name and my address, but now it's like all these other names and addresses. And I just block all of those numbers. And it's weird just that there's kind of all of these avenues, and people are trying to make a buck, and yeah, it seems like very scammy. There's tons of scammy stuff out there.
So speaking of, and this can be a PSA, but there's another one that I was kind of targeted for as a realtor. So I listed this house the other day. I get a text from Florida Power and Light, the utility company. Mm-hmm. They texted me saying, "Hey, we saw that you're the realtor at this home listing at the address that I was selling. Mm-hmm. We've been trying to get in touch with those homeowners for months, and they're behind on their utility bill. And we have somebody on the way to their house to disconnect power. You need to log in, or you need them to log into this site and pay off the balance of this deficit, mm-hmm. or else this guy's gonna cut off the power." Wow. And he's on his way.
Wow.
And
of course he is.
So this is the first day that the house is on the market. We have people coming in. We have tours scheduled for the next couple of days. I'm holding an open house on the weekend. I have all these plans for this house to be in good condition. Yeah. I can't have the power shut off.
No.
So, of course, I'm not going to click a link in that text message, but I'm immediately on the phone with Florida Power and Light. Mm-hmm. And in my head, I'm going wait, everybody in this neighborhood is on OUC.
Yep.
Florida Power and Light is not around here. So, red flag.
Yep.
I'm on the phone with Florida Power and Light. I'm like, "Hey, do you guys have somebody coming out?" And they're like, "No, we don't. Double check your bill or whatever." And then so I'm on the phone with the homeowner, and I'm like, "Are you behind on your power bills? And you guys are OUC, right?" And so there's this new scam where these people will say that they're from a utility company, say that you're behind, mm-hmm. and they're going to come shut off your power unless you pay this balance. And who knows what happens if you click on that link.
Yeah.
But they're looking to make a quick buck of a couple $100, and you pay this balance and you never hear from them again.
Yeah. Wow.
And they'll call off the guy who's coming, and you'll never see him.
Yeah.
But it's on the utility company's websites now that says look out for these scams mm-hmm. of people saying that they're going to come disconnect your power. But that's a new one that I've learned about.
Yeah, it's good to know those things. Yeah, it's you can't really trust anybody you can't see. I've learned even if you think that you might know them, if they're connecting with you online, it's not always them.
Right.
There's a lot of kind of spoofing of accounts, and it's very easy to do that. And then if they have a convincing enough story, so much of that just basically, if you're not doing business with a person in front of you, it's probably not a good idea. It's not right. to your benefit.
Yeah.
So yeah, as things, it's we get so used to online shopping, and I think that's maybe part of it, is where people are like, "Oh yeah, my credit card information is this," and booking hotels and things like that. It's yeah, there's tons of stuff that's legit that you can do online, but yeah, if somebody's asking you for something, it's not going to be real. Mm-hmm. So always call, and don't call a number that they give you.
Right.
And, yeah. Boy, oh boy. Well, Trevor, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. I know since you're a sponsor, I do talk about your website and where to go. So that will be on here. I won't ask you about that. Is there anything else that you'd like to plug or talk about?
I don't think so. I'm on Instagram. If you search, I've recently changed it from Trevor Brown Realtor to Trevor Brown 407. So it's more inclusive of, it's not just real estate. I'm not just a realtor. Mm-hmm. 407 is the area code for Orlando. Yeah. So it's just more inclusive of what it's like to live in Orlando. Mm-hmm. And I happen to be a realtor as my job.
Yeah.
But like I said, I really love to show what I do as an Orlando local, and like to share that with everybody that I can.
Yeah, it's a great account, and you have a lot of followers, I noticed, too, so good for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's good to have that kind of reach. It's just, you know that it's getting out there, and especially with reels and things like that, you can kind of see what how many people saw it. It's an awesome way to get the word out and to be out there, and you're doing such a fantastic job of it. So, yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Definitely. Absolutely. Thank you. And we'll see you soon.
All right, sounds good.
Hello APGD, a neighborhood podcast, is brought to you in part by Stardust Video and Coffee, Audubon Park's beloved neighborhood cafe, bakery, bar, and meeting place, located at 1842 East Winter Park Road. We're also sponsored by Red Light Brew Pub. Founded in 2005, Red Light is widely known as the source for world-class imports and microbrews. A wide selection of natural wines, plus award-winning beers brewed in-house. A full kitchen is in the works with an amazing menu by Chef Jess Tantalo. Located at 2810 Corinne Drive, please check out Red Light for all things beer and wine and soon food. Our theme song is by Christopher Pierce, and special thanks to Trey Hester for all of his help in making this podcast a reality. We do hope you enjoyed this episode. If so, please click subscribe and leave a review if you'd like. We'll see you next time.